Hello all, welcome to Docker Basics to Brilliance course. My name is Kastro Kiran. In the last video, we have understood how to install the Docker on the Linux-based EC2 instance. In this video, we are going to talk about a couple of things that are related to the Docker. Firstly, we'll be talking about how to create a Docker Hub account, and I'll also be showing you my personal Docker Hub account, which I'll be using throughout this particular video course. Along with the creation of Docker Hub account, in this video, I'll also be executing a couple of simple Docker commands in order to create the images, in order to run the containers, and a couple of things that are related to the Docker commands. This video will be completely focusing on a basic commands that are related to the Docker. In the next video, we'll be deep diving into a couple of advanced commands that are related to the Docker. So that is why in this video, I'm calling the Docker commands as part 1. And the next video will be consisting of Docker commands part 2. So firstly, let me go to the browser and show you how to create a Docker Hub account. So currently I am there in the browser. In order to create the Docker Hub account, we have this thing which is known as hub.docker.com. So just go with this link, that is hub.docker.com, and you can see the very first option, or you can also click on sign up in order to create the Docker Hub account. So just click on sign up, and simple steps will be followed where you need to enter the username, password, and also the email ID in order to create the Docker Hub account. Since I already have one Docker Hub account, I'm not going to create any new account, but I'll be just guiding you what are the things that you need to work in order to create the Docker Hub account. So firstly, you need to enter the email ID, and then you can give the name whatever that you want. That name will be visible as your Docker Hub account, and then the password you have to provide. And once you provide all these details, you can click on sign up. Once you click on sign up, automatically the Docker Hub account will get created. Otherwise, the other two ways of creating the Docker Hub account is directly you can connect with Google, and then you can select the email ID that you want, and then the Docker Hub account will get created. And the third option is directly you can continue with the GitHub account in order to create the Docker Hub account. Any one of the ways you can use. I would recommend you to go with continue with Google so that you can directly link your Docker Hub account with your personal Gmail ID, whatever that you have. So this is how you can create a simple Docker Hub account. Let me show you my personal Docker Hub account so that you will be getting an idea how the user interface will be available once you create the Docker Hub account. This is my personal Docker Hub account. Once you sign up into the Docker Hub, you will be seeing this particular type of console. You can see on the top right side, your name will be visible, or the username, whatever you have given to the Docker Hub, that name will be visible here. And if you want to do any kind of settings, if you want to change the profile, all these things, they'll be replicating here. I mean, you can do the changes according to your requirement of anything that you want. As a part of this lecture series, we'll be focusing on this billing part also. So whenever time comes, I'll be explaining explicitly about this billing aspect. But currently, don't bother about billing because we are going to work with the free case of the Docker Hub itself. And then you can see there is this option called download desktop application. So you also can download the Docker desktop if it is for Windows. I mean, if you are using the Windows operating system, you can click on download for Windows. Or if you are using Mac or Linux operating systems also, you can click on these links so that you will be able to download the Docker desktop. As a part of this particular lecture series, we are also going to focus on the Docker desktop in one of the sessions at the end of this particular lecture series. So currently, I'm not going to touch any of these options like Docker desktop because we'll be saving it for the next upcoming sessions. That is exactly in the last parts of this particular course. So this is not that important. But anyway, since as a concept, we need to discuss about Docker desktop feature also. So we'll be discussing about that. And then you can see on the top left side, there is an option called Explore, where you can see the different options that are available. And these options will be working one by one over a period of time. And these are the different Docker images that are available. You can see some images related to machine learning and AI. And currently the trending images, whatever that is there, how many, the most pulled images, the databases and storages. We'll be working with all of these ones one by one as we progress further. These are basically the Docker images. By default, in the Docker Hub, there will be some default images will be there. And these images are the ones that we are going to use in order to create the containers and in order to run the application that is available in the containers. These images are called as base images. Whenever you want to do any kind of activity in the Docker container, we are going to build our application on top of these base images only. So we'll be talking about how to pull these base images, all these things in some time. But currently, you can see these are the different images belonging to the different categories. And then you can also see the next one, which is known as repositories, where we are going to see whatever the repositories that we are going to create in the Docker Hub, those repositories and the Docker images will also be shown here. Once we connect with the Docker Hub from the Docker host, then I'll be showing you how to get the images into the Docker Hub account, just like how we worked with GitHub. Let's say you are working with in your local system and you want to send the files to your GitHub repository. So similarly, here also, we can work in our local system, that is basically the EC2 instance. From the EC2 instance, how to send the images to the Docker Hub. We have a dedicated session on that, where we'll be talking about that in the part 2 of this lecture series. So currently, don't bother about all these things. We'll be exploring, but I'm just showing you the concept of how the Docker Hub will work. And then you can see the Docker Hub organizations. You can create your own organization and you can collaborate among your team members, especially when you are working in the projects. So this is something that is most commonly used in the real-time scenarios, but that doesn't make any difference between the things that we are going to explore. So whatever the collaborations that you can do, the same thing also we are going to focus as a part of this lecture series. So this is about the Docker Hub console. Now what we will do is we have already launched one EC2 instance in the last session, and we have installed the Docker in that particular EC2 instance. Now what we are going to do is we'll be connecting to that particular instance and we'll execute a couple of Docker commands that are essential in order to understand the Docker concepts on a primary level. So I have just restarted the instance, whatever that we have created in the last session, and I have named it as Docker-Castro. That was the original name. So I have just renamed it to -YT, which represents YouTube, just to identify for myself. So you can see currently the instance is in the running state. Once the instance is in the running state, we know how to connect to the instance. So how will we connect to the instance? So just to select the instance, copy the public IP address of the instance, and then by using MobiXterm software, we are going to connect to the instance. Let me go to the MobiXterm software and connect it to the Docker and execute some basic commands that are related to the Docker. So currently I am there in the MobiXterm software. You can see, click on session and then click on SSH. In the place of remote host, paste the public IP address of the instance and check this specify username and give the username as EC2-user. So why we are giving EC2-user? Because for all Linux-based instances, the username is EC2-user. Suppose if you have installed the Docker on Ubuntu-based instances, the username will become Ubuntu. And then click on Advanced SSH Settings, check this Use Private Key, click on the file icon, and then select the key pair, whatever that you have used in order to connect to the instance. So just click on OK and then click on accept, and then you can see the instance you have successfully connected. So firstly, let me clear the screen and let me zoom it. And here you can see I have successfully connected to the instance. Right. So now we need to work with Docker. So as I discussed in the last video, I have already installed the Docker in this particular instance. How can we check? So in order to check whether Docker is available or not, just execute Docker-v so that you will be able to see the Docker version. You can see the Docker version currently installed is 20.10.25. Now let us see whether Docker is working or not. So in order to verify that, just execute this command called docker info and then click enter. You can see cannot connect to there is an error message that is getting displayed. What is it displaying? It is telling that cannot connect to the Docker daemon. So what is happening? I am currently not able to connect to the Docker daemon. What is the reason for this? The reason is the Docker daemon is not in the running state. Why it is not in the running state? Because when I was working in the previous video, after completing the task, I have stopped the EC2 instance. Once after stopped the EC2 instance, I have restarted the EC2 instance for this demo or for this video. Now, since I have stopped and restarted the instance, the Docker daemon will also get stopped. So what we have to do, we have to restart the Docker daemon also. So in order to restart the Docker service, we have the command which is known as sudo space service docker start. So this is the command that is used in order to start the Docker service. So just click enter. You can see the Docker service has got started. Now, can you check whether Docker is in the running state or not? Yes. How will you check whether Docker is in the running state or not? Sudo service Docker status. You will be seeing the Docker is in the running state. Can you see what is the status of the Docker? It is in the active and it is in the running state. Now, if you execute, let me clear the screen. Now, if you execute Docker info, you will be able to see the Docker things. Okay, don't bother about these false and all. That is not a problem. So you can see currently the Docker is running in the running state. Okay, now you can see how many containers are available, how many running containers are available, how many containers are paused, how many containers have stopped, how many images are available. Currently, we didn't do anything here. Okay, I have just installed the Docker in the last video, and now I have just connected to the Docker service. So we don't have technically any containers in the running state, paused state, or in the stopped state. And we also don't have any kind of Docker images as well. Now what we will do is we will see how to work with the Docker commands. So if you want to know the complete version details of the Docker, you can also execute this particular command, which is known as a Docker space version. You can see the different details of the version. So the server engine, if you just scroll down, you can see the server, which is a Docker engine, which version of the Docker engine is available, what is the API version, what is the Go version, because Docker is developed by using Go programming language. That is what this Go version is. And then you can see the Git commit, the build, all the details you can see in detail about everything that is related to the Docker. So firstly, you can see the Docker engine details. These are actually all the Docker engine details. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you will be able to see all the things that are related to the Docker client and Docker server. So when you execute just the Docker-v, you will be seeing just the Docker version. But when you execute Docker space version, you can see Docker client information, and you can also see Docker engine information, and you can also see the container details, runtime environment, everything you are able to see. Right. So now what we have done is you can see the Docker is currently in the running state. So if Docker engine is working, that means a Docker daemon will also work. Remember this, if Docker engine is working, Docker daemon will also work. Now let's see how to create a container. Now in order to create a container, we need Docker image. Okay, in order to create a container, we need Docker image. Currently, we have the Docker client and Docker engine. Docker engine is also called as a Docker daemon. Remember this. We have discussed about the terminologies in the third video about what are the different terminologies that are involved in the Docker architecture or Docker components we have discussed. So please watch that video to have an understanding about the Docker engine, Docker daemon, Docker client, Docker host, all these things. Right. So now let's verify whether do we have any images or not. So in order to verify whether do we have any Docker images or not, we have this command which is known as Docker space images. When you execute Docker space images, it will show you what are the images that are available in the Docker that we have currently installed. Let me click enter. You can see it is just displaying the repository tag image ID created size, but it is not displaying any images. Why it is not displaying? By default, whenever you install the Docker in the EC2 instance, it will not consist of any kind of images. So that is why it is not showing any kind of images. So you don't see any images here. It means Docker client is not having any images. Now the thing is, Docker client is going to search with the Docker host. Okay, Docker client is going to search with the Docker host. Docker host is basically a Docker daemon or Docker engine. If Docker daemon is having images, it will get the images from Docker daemon. Okay, if Docker daemon is having the images, it will get the images from Docker daemon. If Docker daemon is also not having the images, then it will communicate with the Docker registry. Remember this, I'll repeat once again. If you don't see, whenever you are executing Docker images and if you are not seeing anything, assume that it doesn't have any kind of images. That means Docker client is not having any kind of images. Now what Docker client will do, Docker client will go and search with the Docker host. That is basically a Docker daemon or Docker engine. If Docker daemon is having the images, then it will get the images And if Docker daemon is also not having the images, then it will communicate with the Docker hub. Docker hub is also known as a Docker registry. Now let's assume it in this way. Let's say I need one default image. By default, there will be some images that will be available in the Docker hub or Docker registry. We have just seen the default images that are available. Now let's say I want to get an image called Amazon Linux image. Okay, let's say I need an image called Amazon Linux image. Now, firstly, let us search whether Amazon Linux image is available or not. So in order to search whether there is any image available or not, we have the command docker search space image name. Whatever is the image that you want to search, you just give that image. So what is the image that I want to search? Amazon Linux. I want to know whether this image is available or not. So just click enter. And if you see the commands getting executed, that means that particular image is available. You can see the different names of the images, the stars, how many have starred that images. Officially, is this the original one or not? And you can see the description of the images as well. Right. So we have the Docker image with the name Amazon Linux. Now, what I want is I want to download this image into my EC2 instance. I'm just clearing the screen. I want to download this image into my EC2 instance. The downloading of images into the EC2 instance or into the server is known as pulling the image. So whenever we are talking about the image pulling, image downloading in Docker, we should call it as image pulling. So what we will do, let us pull the Docker image. So what is the Docker image that we are going to pull? Amazon Linux is the Docker image that we are going to pull. So let's pull the Docker image from where we are going to pull from the Docker registry. Docker registry is also known as Docker hub. From the Docker registry to my Docker client. That is what we are going to do. So we are going to pull the Docker image. So we are going to pull the Docker image from the Docker registry to my Docker client. So let us do that. So Docker, I want to pull, I want to download. So in order to download, we have the command called docker pull. Docker pull space image name. Whatever image that you want to pull, you can pull the image. So I'm just giving this name. That means I am going to download this Amazon Linux image into my Docker client. Okay, remember this, into my Docker client. So now if you click enter, the image will get pulled into your Docker client software. You can see there is the total size of the image that is getting extracted. And once the image gets extracted, that is done. So now Amazon Linux image is available in our Docker client software. And you can see the pull status is also complete. From where it is pulling from library in the sense the Docker registry or the Docker hub. What is the name of the image? Amazon Linux is the name of the image. So you can see the status of the image. It is downloaded, newer image for Amazon Linux latest. Okay, so from where it got downloaded, docker.io/library/the image name :latest. So latest image of Amazon Linux has got downloaded. Now I want to verify whether the image is available or not. So I am telling that I have downloaded this image by using docker pull command, but I want to verify whether that image is really available or not. So how will you verify? In order to see the list of images that are available in the Docker client, we have this command which is known as Docker images. So once you click Docker images, you should be able to see the Amazon Linux image. Can you see? The repository name is Amazon Linux. Tag, it is the latest image. For every Docker image, you will be getting the image ID also. So when it was created 8 days ago. And what is the size of the image? 144 MB is the size of image. Okay, so here what I have done, I have installed the Amazon Linux on my server. Initially what I have done, when I was creating the EC2 instance, I have created Amazon Linux. So this means my operating system will run on this server. Okay, my operating system will run on this server. So let us check the size of the operating system, that is Amazon Linux operating system. So in order to check the size of the Amazon Linux operating system, we have this command du space -sh. So click enter, you can see the image size. Okay, so again, this is not that important. So let's just bother about the image pulling process and seeing the images and the details of the images that you have pulled. So let me clear the screen and let me execute Docker images. Once you execute Docker images, we have pulled this image and you can see the details of this image. So we'll be talking about the image ID also. In the next session, we'll be talking about this particular one. Now, once you create the Docker images, okay, once you create the Docker images, now let us create the Docker container. Here I have not created an image, I have just pulled the image from the Docker registry. So this is the default image. Amazon Linux is the default image that will be available in the Docker registry. So what I have done, I have just pulled that Docker image into my Docker client. Now what we are going to do is, let us create a container. Okay, let us create a container. So in order to create a container, the command is docker container. Okay, the docker space container. Sorry. So docker space run. Okay, I want to create a container. So docker space run hyphen IT. IT represents interactive mode. Okay, IT represents interactive mode. Hyphen name. Okay, so here I should give the name of the container. Any name you can give. Okay, docker run hyphen IT hyphen name space the Docker container name. You want to create a container with your own name. Yes, you can do that. So let me follow one terminology in order to create the container names. I'll just give it as 001. This is actually the container name. So here you can give any name, whatever that you want. There is no restriction that you should give only this name. Whatever name that you want to give to the container, you can give that name. And then for what image you are creating the container, that image name you have to give. So this is my image name, Amazon Linux. So Amazon Linux is the image name. And this image, by using this image, I'm creating a container. What is the container name? This is the container. How will you create the container? By using this command, docker run space hyphen IT hyphen name, container name, and image name. Remember, this is the image name. You should give exactly the image, whatever you have downloaded from the Docker registry. That is Docker pull you have executed, right? The same image name you should give, right? So this is how you can create the container. Okay, you can create the container. So let me click on enter and you can see bash hyphen 0.5.2. Okay, bash hyphen 0.5.2. What does it mean? It means when you see this one, that means you are actually there inside the container. Okay, it means you are actually there inside the container. So when you run it, what will happen? You will be directed inside the container. Now, currently I'm in which container? I am inside this particular container called container 001. Okay, now let's say inside this container, I was telling, if you remember in the very first videos, I was telling that inside the container, we can deploy the applications. Okay, inside the container, we can deploy the application. But currently, it's too early to deploy the applications. Now, let's say, can I install a software inside the container? Let's say I want to install a software called Git. I want to install a software called Maven. I want to install a software called Java. So can I install the softwares inside the containers? Yes, you can install. So now, let's say I want to install a software. So, let's say I'm going to install a software called Git. Yum install Git. Why it is yum? Because we are using Linux, Amazon Linux. So for Amazon Linux, yum is the package manager. For Ubuntu, apt is the package manager. So I am trying to install Git software by using yum install Git. This is the command in order to install the Git software. Where I am installing this Git software? Inside the container called container 001. So let me click enter and you can see the Git software is getting installed inside the particular container. Okay, so here I am trying to install Git on the container. Where container is available, container is running on server. Okay, container is running on server. What is our server? The EC2 instance. This means whatever we are able to do on server, we are doing the same thing on the container also. Okay, usually what we'll do, we will directly install the Git software or any other software directly on the EC2 instance. Now, where I am installing the software called Git software, I have installed the Git software on top of the container. Inside the container, I have installed the Git software. Okay, inside the container, I have installed the Git software. So that's how you can install any kind of software. Even you can deploy the applications inside the containers. So I hope you now got an idea. So currently what I have done, I went inside the container by executing this particular command. So when you see bash hyphen 5.2 hashtag, that means you are actually there inside the container. Okay, you are actually there inside the container. Now inside the container, what we know that we can install softwares, we can deploy the applications and all. But currently I'm not showing how to deploy the applications. In the further sessions, we'll see that. But what I have done currently, I have installed the Git software on top of container. I have not installed explicitly on the EC2 instance. Inside the EC2 instance, I have installed the Docker. Inside the Docker, I have pulled the image. By using that image, I have created a container. Inside that container, I have installed the Git software. That is what I have done. I hope you are getting the flow of the work, whatever we are doing now. Right. So till the time you are seeing bash hyphen 5.2 hashtag, that means you are there inside the container only. Okay, inside the container only. Can I create a file inside the container? Yes, you can create a file. So how will you create a file? Touch space. Let's say I'll give the file name as docker hyphen 001. Okay, touch space docker hyphen 001.txt. I'm just creating a file called txt file. You can also create a Python file. You can also create a Java file, whatever that you want. So click enter and you can see the file got created. Now, can you verify whether the file got created or not? Yes. How will you verify? We have the simple Linux command, which is known as ls. So click enter. You can see the file is available. Okay, you can see the file is available. Docker space, docker hyphen 001.txt. This file is available. Can you write the content inside the file? Yes. How will you write? By using cat command. So that's all simple Linux things only. So here what we have done, firstly, I have went inside the container and then I have installed the Git software. We have verified that. And then I have created a text file also. Can I verify whether Git is installed or not? Yes. How will you verify? Git space hyphen version. So this is the command that is used in order to verify whether Git is installed or not. Sorry, Git space hyphen version. This is the command. Click enter. You can see the Git is installed. Where the Git is installed? Inside the container, not on the Linux machine. On the Linux machine, we have installed the Docker software. On the Docker software, we have created one container by pulling the image. Inside the container, I have installed the Git software. And inside the container, I have also created a text file as well. Right. So now let's say you have done enough work in the container. Now you want to come out of the container. Now, in order to come out of the container, press Ctrl D in your keyboard. Okay, press Ctrl D. Now, currently where I am there, I am now there inside the EC2 instance. Earlier, when you see bash hyphen 5.2 hashtag, what does it mean? It means you are there inside the container. Now, in order to exit from the container, what is the command that you have to use? Ctrl plus D. Okay, Ctrl plus D. Right. Now, let's say I want to see the list of running containers. Okay, I want to see the list of running containers. How will you see the list of running containers? Docker space ps. This is the command that is used in order to see the list of running containers. But currently we will not see that. We will see that in some time. Let me clear the screen. Right. Now you can see Docker images. There is a Docker image that is available, which is Amazon Linux image. Right. So now what we will do is let us stop the container. Okay, let us stop the container. So how to stop a particular container? So in order to stop a container, the command is docker space stop space container name. What is the container that we have? Container name that we have given 001. Okay, docker space stop container 001. This is the command that is used in order to stop the containers. Okay, in order to stop the containers. So just click enter and you can see container 001 has got stopped. Okay, container 001 has got stopped. You should give exactly the container name, whatever you have created. When you are executing docker run command, you must have created one container. The same name you should give here. Right. So I have stopped the container. Now let's say I want to see the list of running containers. Okay, I want to see the list of running containers. So how will you see? In order to see the list of running containers, the command is docker space ps. Okay, docker space ps will give you the list of running containers. So let me click enter. And now you can see I am not able to see any containers. Why I am not able to see any containers? Because I have stopped that container. When you stop the container and when you execute Docker PS, it will only show you the list of running containers. Okay, it will only show you the list of running containers. Now let's say I have stopped the container. Now, how to see the containers that got stopped? Let's say I want to see the list of all the containers, both in the running state and also in the stopped state. I want to see all the list of entire containers. So in order to see the list of entire containers, we have a command docker ps -a. So when you execute docker ps-a, that means you will be seeing both the containers which are in the running state and which are also in the stopped state. So click enter and you can see the container ID, the image, the command, when it got created, what is the status. Can you see the container name? This is actually the container name, container 001. What is the current status of the container? It is exited. Exited represents it is stopped. Exited, if you see that, that means container is currently stopped. Now, can I restart a container? Yes, you can restart a container. How to restart a container? In order to restart a container, the command is docker start space container name. What is the container name? Container, okay, container 001. It is the name of the container which I have created. So what I am doing here, firstly, I have created one container and then I have stopped the container. And to see the list of running containers, we have docker ps command, but it will show only the list of running containers. If you want to see the list of all the containers that are in the running state and also in the stopped state, we will use this command called docker ps-a. So currently you can see container 001 is available and it is currently in the exited state. Exited means it is in the stopped state. Now I want to restart the container. In order to restart the container, docker start space the container name. So just click enter so that the container will get started. Okay, so that the container will get started. Now, let's say I want to see the container. So docker space ps hyphen. Click enter. You can see, sorry, docker space ps. So you don't have to give a hyphen here, just give docker ps. So click enter. Can you see the container 001? It is in the running state or not? Yes. What is the status? I have started this particular container 20 seconds ago. Okay, when I have created 9 minutes ago. Okay, so where it got created in this particular path. What is the image that I have used in order to create the container? Amazon Linux. Okay, what is the container ID? You can see the container ID. So that's how you can work with the Docker commands. So let me show you. So I can clicking Docker images, it will display the list of Docker images that we have pulled. Docker PS will show you the list of running containers only. Docker ps-a will show you both the running containers and also the containers which are stopped. Currently, we have one container which is in the running state. So in both cases, it is showing the same container, right? So that's how you can work with the containers. So here, let's say I want to kill a container. Okay, I want to kill a container. So in order to kill a container and in order to work with the stopping of the containers, we will be looking into that now. Now, in order to, let's say, I want to kill a container. So in order to kill a container, we have the command which is known as docker kill space the container name. What is the container name? 001. So docker kill space container name. What is the container name? 001. So just click enter so that the container will get killed. Okay, the container will get killed. Now, here you need to understand the difference between the docker stop and docker kill. That's most important here. This is also one of the commonly asked interview questions. So what is the difference between the docker stop and docker kill? Docker stop will stop all the services that are running inside the container. Okay, remember this. Docker stop will stop all the services that are running inside the container. Okay, whereas docker kill will directly terminate the container. Okay, docker kill will directly terminate the container. It will kill the container immediately. Now let's say I will execute docker ps. Can you see the container? No. Can you let me execute docker ps-a? Can you see the container? Yes. Okay, it is going to kill the container. So when you see docker, when you execute docker stop, it will stop all the services that are available inside the container. But when you do docker kill, it will terminate the container. Okay, it will terminate the container. What is the status here? Exited. That means you have come out of the container. You have stopped this container. Okay, you have killed the container. So it will not wait till the containers are stopped. Okay, so the simple difference between Docker stop and Docker kill, I hope you got it now. Docker stop will stop all the services inside the container. Docker kill will directly terminate the container. Okay, so that's how you can work with that simple Docker commands. I hope you now got an idea about how to work with simple Docker commands. Let me write the notes for you so that you can understand more better whatever the work that I have done so far. I'll be writing the notes also. So let's write the notes. What we have done is once after you stop the instance, okay, once after you stop the instance and restart, okay, restart the same instance, Docker will not work automatically. Okay, Docker will not work automatically. So what you have to do, you have to explicitly start the Docker container. So to start the Docker, okay, it's not Docker container, to start the Docker. So in order to start the Docker, we have the command, which is Docker space service or sudo service Docker start. This is the command, sudo service Docker start. Once you execute this, what will happen? The Docker will start. In order to verify the status, okay, to see the status of the Docker, we have the command sudo service, okay, sudo service Docker status. Once you execute this, what will happen? You can see, okay, in green color, okay, in green color, you can see status running. Okay, you can see status in the brackets, you will see it as running. So once you see this, that means Docker software is running, right? So now you can also execute it to see the version of the Docker. So how will you see the version of the Docker? To see the version of the Docker, you have two commands. The first command is Docker space -v, and when you execute this directly, it will show you the Docker version. But if you want to know more details about that, Docker space version, that's it. So when you execute Docker -v, it will just show you the Docker version. When you execute Docker space version, it will give you in-depth details of the version. Okay, let me write that. So it will just show the Docker version. Okay, it will just show the Docker version. But whereas the other one, what it will show the complete details of the Docker. Okay, let me copy this one. It will show the complete details. It will show the complete details of the Docker version. That's how you can verify that, right? So once you do that, you can execute the Docker info command also to see the information. Okay, Docker info. This is basically for your use case I'm telling. So it will show you all the information related to the Docker, right? So now let's say what we have done initially. After this, I have shown you how to pull the image. Okay, how to pull the image. Now, before pulling the image, I have said that whenever you want to create a container, we need Docker image. That we have to remember. So to create a container, or let me keep it in this way, whenever we want to create a container, okay, whenever we want to create a container, we need Docker image. Okay, we need Docker image. So this is mandatory. So in order to create a container, Docker image is mandatory. So currently, by default, do we have any Docker images? No. By default, we will not have any Docker images. By default, we will not have any Docker images. So where will you get the Docker images? Docker images will be available in Docker Hub or Docker registry. Docker images will be available in Docker Hub or Docker registry, right? So whenever you execute Docker images, so to see the list of Docker images, okay, to see the list of Docker images, we have the command which is known as Docker images. Okay, you have the command which is known as Docker images. So since you have not pulled any image, you don't see any images. It means the Docker client is not having any images. Now what it will do, the Docker client is going to search with the Docker host. So the processor of getting the images, the backend process, I'll call the backend process of getting the images. So how will you get from the images? Let's say when you execute Docker images, you don't see any images. So when we don't see any images, when we don't see any images, it means, okay, it means Docker client is not having any images. Okay, now what Docker client will do? Now Docker client will search with the Docker host. Okay, Docker host is also known as Docker daemon. Okay, Docker daemon or Docker engine, anything is same. Okay, Docker engine or Docker daemon. So if daemon is also not having, okay, if daemon is having the images, let's say if daemon is having the images, it will display the images. Okay, it will display the images. What if daemon is not having the images? If daemon is not having the images, okay, if daemon is not having the images, then it will communicate, okay, it will communicate with the Docker hub or Docker registry. That's how it happens in the backend. So before pulling the image, this is the process that will happen in the backend of pulling the images. Now let's say if you want to search for a specific image. So to search for a specific image, to search for a specific image. So how will you search for a specific image? The command is docker search, okay, docker search space image name, image name. Let's keep it as an example here. Docker search. Let's say what is the image that we were looking for? Amazon Linux. It will display you the list of the content that is related to the Docker image. Now the next thing is how to pull the image, to pull or download the image. Okay, to pull or download the image. So in order to pull or download the image, we have the command docker pull space image name. Okay, docker pull space image name. So how will you do that? Let me give it an example here. Docker pull space image name. What is the image name that we want to download? Amazon Linux. Okay, so how will you see the list of images? In order to see the list of images, now you can execute docker images. You will be seeing, let me write that, you will see the details of the image such as image ID, size, image ID and size. Other details also you will be able to see, but let us focus on these two only, image ID and size. Okay, right. So that's how you can pull the Docker images into your EC2 instance. Right. Now let's say I want to create a container. Okay, I want to create a container. So how to create a container? To create and run the container. To create and run the container at a time. Both I am doing at a time. So how to do that? We have the command which is docker run space hyphen IT. IT represents interactive mode space container name you have to give. Okay, container name. Whatever name that you want, you can give that container name. Space for which image you want to give it, you want to create a container, that image name you should give. So let me keep it as an example here. Okay, the example goes in this way. Docker run example. Let me write that. Docker run hyphen IT, that is interactive mode, container name. I am giving the container name as 001. For which image I want to create the container? Amazon Linux. That's how you can create the container. Once you execute the above one, okay, once after executing the above command, you will see, okay, you will see what you will see, bash, something like this, bash hyphen 5.2 hashtag. This you will see. Okay, you will see something like this. It means, okay, it means you are currently inside the container. Okay, you are currently inside the container. Now let's say how to install a software inside a container, inside the container. So how will you install the softwares inside the container? Just execute this command, yum install git, so that the git software will get installed. If you want to install Java, yum install Java. If you want to install Python, yum install Python. So how will you verify? To verify, okay, to verify whether Git is installed inside the container or not. How will you verify that? Same command, the git space hyphen version. You will see the git version. Once you see the git version, that means the git software has got successfully installed inside the container. Remember, this is most important. Inside the container, we are doing it. Right. So once you install the software, can I create a file? Yes. So to create a file, okay, to create a file inside the container. So how will you create a file inside the container? Touch space file name, any name you can give. Okay, you can write the content inside the file also by using cat command as well. Right. That's how you can work with that. Right. Now, let's say I want to see the list of containers. Okay, to see the list of running containers. Okay, to see the list of running containers. What is the command to see the list of running containers? Docker ps. Okay, Docker ps. So to stop a container. Okay, to stop a container. So how will you stop a container? Docker stop. Okay, Docker stop space container name. Okay, Docker stop space container name. It will display you it will stop the container. Now, let's say to see the list of both running and not running containers. How will you see both ones? Docker space, okay, Docker space ps space -a. When you execute this one, what it will display? It will display both the containers which are in the running state and also the containers which are in the stopped state. Okay, not running in the sense stopped. Let me keep it in the bracket, stopped containers. Okay, that's how you can see that. Right. Now, let's say you want to restart a container. So how will you restart a container? To restart the container, container. So how will you restart a container? In order to restart the container, Docker start space container name. Okay, Docker start space container name. And then you can see the containers. Okay, the Docker container will get started. Another command that we have worked is to kill a container. To kill a container. So how will you kill a container? Docker kill space container name. Docker kill space container name. That's how you can kill the container. Okay. So what is the difference between stop and killing the containers? Let me write that also. Difference between the stop and kill of a container. Kill of a container. So the simple difference goes in this way. Okay, let me keep it as bullet point. Docker stop. Okay, Docker stop will stop all the services inside the container. The Docker stop will stop all the services inside the container. This is why we have a wait time when we execute Docker stop. It will not immediately stop. It will take some time and then it will stop. Okay, that's basically Docker stop. Docker kill. Docker stop it is, yeah. So Docker kill will directly terminate the container. So directly terminate the container. So it will not wait. Okay, it will not wait till the containers are stopped. Okay, it will kill immediately. It will kill immediately. We will see much differences between Docker kill and Docker stop in the upcoming sessions also, but it's very early to talk more about these things. Okay, so these are the different commands that we have worked in this particular session. Same notes will also be uploaded into the GitHub repository. So you can have a look into the GitHub repository. The GitHub repository URL is provided in the description of this video. You can look into that video, GitHub link as well. This is all about the Docker commands part 1. In the next video, we'll be talking about a couple of advanced commands, and we will also pull a couple of extra images, and we will work with the advanced commands that are available in the Docker, and how to work with those advanced commands also we'll be looking into the next video. Thank you.